donne maintenant la parole à son Excellence M. Zalmai Rassoul, ministre des Affaires étrangères de l'Afghanistan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Madame la Présidente, fellow head of delegation, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you all the warm greetings and good wishes of the Afghan people. I have the honor of addressing this August Assembly in the last year of the current elected government of Afghanistan. So I think it's useful to briefly revisit the story of Afghanistan over the past 12 years, our historic successes, and our concrete achievements that have transformed Afghanistan, and yes, the challenges they have faced continuously during this time. Following on that, I would like to share with you the vision of the Afghan people and government for the future of freedom, dignity, prosperity, and democracy that we're striving to solidify in our country, and briefly address the critical importance of our relation and cooperation with countries in our region and broader community of nations. To better illustrate the journey that Afghanistan and its noble people have been on over the past 12 years, I would like to share two contrasting pictures of the reality of Afghanistan in the year 2001, at the time of the collapse of the Taliban regime, in the year of 2013, as we are going through a historic period in process of transition. During the little more than 2 decades, up to November 2001, when the Afghan people ousted the Taliban regime from power with military backing from the US-led international military coalition, the people of Afghanistan has experienced and suffered incalculable pain, deprivation, and loss through the three distinct periods. Between the communist coup in 1978 and the subsequent invasion of our country in 1979, and the fall of the communist regime, more than 1 million Afghan men, women, and children were killed. More than 2 million were made orphans or left with severe war wounds, and over 5 million were forced out of their villages and towns into refugee camps in neighboring countries, mainly Pakistan and Iran, as a result of the brutality of the occupation of the communist regime and during our resistance against the occupation of our country. We fought that resistance, our holy jihad, for our freedom and independence, and we won. In the process, helping the national freedom and independence movement in Eastern Europe. The international community that had supported our struggle for several years abandoned us when the defeat and withdrawal of Red Army became apparent. Exploiting the vacuum of eternal strife created during the early 1990s, the foreign-backed Taliban movement rose to power and quickly controlled more than 90% of Afghan territory. But then equally quickly, they removed their mask and revealed their true identity that held the Afghan nation hostage and unleashed a period of particularly cruel and barbaric violence and cruelty against them under the guise of Islam. Through their backward worldview, sheer violence and brutal suppression of the rights of freedom of the Afghan people, especially women, they turned our country against themselves. The international community was only mobilized to take action against the Taliban regime in the wake of 9/11 terrorist attack in the United States, including this city. At the time we were getting ready to drive the Taliban regime from power at the end of 2001, with military backing from the US-led international coalition, Afghanistan was in near total dark isolation from the region and the world community. The Afghan people represented a terrorized population who had no right, no freedom, and no protection from the regime brutality. Severe poverty and disease were endemic, and little or no access to healthcare services. The education system completely excluding women and girls, and fewer than 500,000 male students attending schools and universities was a catastrophic failure. The average annual per capita income was about $100, and the country lacked a single nation currency. Our roads, bridges, irrigation networks, and other components of critical national infrastructure were completely destroyed. Afghanistan did not have a national army or national police force, and all our other state institutions has been reduced to rubble. In short, Afghanistan was a failed state ruled by a proxy military group that provided shelter to international terrorists that posing a real danger to regional and international peace and security. Madame la Présidente, the situation in Afghanistan during that period was indeed bleak. The Afghan people had little hope for their future and the future of their youth and children. However, following the Al-Qaeda terrorist attack in the United States, the Afghan people come together, and with support from the United States and a multitude of other friends and allies in the international community, removed the Taliban from power and embarked on a new area of hope, reconstruction, development, and progress, a new area marked by an entirely different reality. Primarily as a result of our own sacrifices and the considerable sacrifices and support of international friends and allies, during our 12 years partnership, Afghanistan once again became the home of all Afghans, men and women, where they enjoy equal rights and freedom under our democratic constitution. Today, Afghanistan is a forward-looking young democracy with functioning state institutions, an elected president, an elected parliament, an elected provincial council in each one of our 34 provinces, backed up by powerful civil society movement. Afghan independent media, with around 50 independent television channels, over 100 community FM radio stations, and hundreds of print publications, is arguably one of the freest in the region. Today, there are more than 20 million mobile phone users across Afghanistan, an increasing number of them accessing information and using various platforms on the internet. Per capita income has increased from $100 a year to $600 a year. Our national currency has been consistently stable, and our trade ties with the outside world are rapidly expanding. Today, in the new Afghanistan, the number of children that attend school stand at well over 10 million, 40% of them girls, and there are hundreds of thousands of young men and women attending some 70 government and private colleges and universities. More than 70% of our people today have access to basic healthcare service, which, among other things, has increased average life expectancy from around 40 years to above 60 years in just one decade. We have rebuilt 1,000 kilometers of road, irrigation canal, bridges, and other pieces of our country's critical physical infrastructure, thus cutting travel time and facilitating trade and the movement of people through the country and with our neighboring countries. Afghanistan today is a proud and active member of the international community while managing our ever-expanding relation and cooperation with countries and organizations around the world through a network of 70 diplomatic, consular, and consular missions. Madame la Présidente, the example of rejuvenation and development, progress and achievement that I just described represent the true picture of the reality in today's Afghanistan. As considering that 12 years is not a very long time in the history of a country, especially a country like Afghanistan that had gone through more than 35 years of war and destruction, these achievements and gains are nothing short of historic transformation. Madame la Présidente, I have drawn this clear contrast between the Afghanistan of 10 years ago and the positive reality of today for two main reasons. One, to underscore a model of collective action and international cooperation in support of the national effort for peace, security, and development in a country. And two, to counter the narrative from doom and gloom for Afghanistan by those who are ignorant about our progress or harbor ill will toward us. Indeed, this new Afghanistan is currently going through a critical period of security, economic, and political transition that comes with its difficulty and challenges, but it is helping us consolidate our fledgling democratic order and strengthening our national sovereignty, independence, and ownership of our own affairs. This is this vision that Afghan people and government for the years leading to up to completion of transition 2014 and into transformation decade 2015-2024. In the security area, it is our more than 350,000 brave and professional soldier and police officers, not foreign soldiers, who are directly responsible for the security of more than 90% of the Afghan population. The transfer of security responsibility from international force to Afghan national security forces, which we launched in the summer of 2011, throughout the country will be completed by the end of 2014. Our force have demonstrated their courage, commitment, and effectiveness in successfully taking over from their international partners. It is through the enormous selfless sacrifice of our proud and patriotic national security forces on a daily basis that security in most cities and towns that have gone through transition has improved, and the Taliban have been beaten back. We are fully confident that the continued financial assistance of the international community for the equipment and other requirements and needs and pledges at the Chicago NATO Summit in May 2012, Afghan national forces will be able to provide security to the Afghan people and defend the countries against external threats. Parallel to our ongoing effort to enhance the capacity and capability of our national security forces, the Afghan government is pursuing a political process of peace and reconciliation with the Taliban. The key principle and condition to this process are clear: respect for Afghanistan Constitution, which guarantees full and equal rights to Afghan men and women, preservation and improvement of our achievement over the past decade, and renunciation of violence against the population. The Islamic Republic of Pakistan, a major neighbor, can play a key role in supporting our peace process. We have been heartened by the recent successful visit to Islamabad by President Karzai and the positive and constructive dialogue that took place between the two governments during that visit. We look forward to further steps in progress in the weeks and months to come. Pakistan's essential role in advancing the Afghan peace process is a clear example of the support that Afghanistan's neighbor and other countries in the region, especially Muslim countries, can provide to the Afghan peace process. Madame la Présidente, as far as the economic component of transition is concerned, the presence of large international military forces over the past 10 years has generated employment and income opportunities for thousands of our citizens. So it's natural that there will be adverse impact resulting from the withdrawal of these forces. In addition of our best effort to realize Afghanistan's role as a trade, transit, and economic integration roundabout in the heart of Asia region, to the benefit of all people of the region, the Afghan government is keen to reduce negative economic impact of international military withdrawal and strengthening our national economy in at least three ways. First, by focusing on development of the agriculture and agribusiness sector, where over 70% of our population is directly or indirectly engaged, and where this enormous potential will grow employment generations. Second, Afghanistan is estimated to hold trillions of dollars of natural resources, including mineral and hydrocarbons, representing a guaranteed source of wealth and income for generations to come. We already have several state-owned and private companies from China, India, United Kingdom, Canada, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, and other countries, in addition to Afghan companies, expressing a keen interest in investing billions of dollars in copper, iron ore, gold, rare earth, and oil and gas. And we are actively seeking additional foreign investment into the sector while remaining duly diligent to make sure our national riches serve a goal of a strong, legitimate national economy and improved prosperity and welfare for the Afghan people. Third, the Tokyo Conference last July pledged over $60 billion through 2015 to help the Afghan government fill its projected fiscal gap. Conference participants also committed to provide additional financial assistance to Afghanistan beyond 2016 at or near level of the past decade. This generous financial support will be critical in tiding us over the next years. Madame la Présidente, in addition to the security and economic transition, we have a crucial political transition coming up next year, namely presidential election and provincial council election. Next year, presidential election will mark the first time in our history when one elected president will transfer power to another elected president through a peaceful democratic process. The Afghan government is doing everything possible to ensure free, fair, and credible elections so the Afghan people can choose who the next president will be. A successful presidential election will entrench our democratic process and greatly contribute to our effort to our lasting peace, security, and prosperity. Madame la Présidente, as we go forward to implementing the transition agenda and preparing for transformation decade, another key foundation of our long-term success will be strategic partnership we have forged with some of our closest friends and allies over the past few years. Since October 2011, when we signed our first long-term strategic partnership agreement with the Republic of India, we have entered into similar long-term strategic partnership with the United States, Germany, Australia, France, the United Kingdom, Italy, Norway, Finland, Denmark, and Poland. We have also concluded or currently negotiating similar partnership with the European Union, Turkey, and United Arab Emirates. Here, I would like also to repeat the Afghan government and people appreciation for the solid and broad-based expression of long-term political support for a peaceful, prosperous, democratic Afghanistan by more than 100 countries and organizations at the historic International Bonn Conference, kindly hosted by the German government in December 2011. Especially with the United States, we are also negotiating a separate bilateral security agreement that will define the parameters of the long-term security and defense cooperation between our two countries. I'd like also to reiterate our long-standing principled position that any bilateral security agreement Afghanistan signed with other countries, including the United States, will only be for the purpose of ensuring peace, security, development, and consolidation of our young democracy, and not directed at our neighbors or any countries in the region. Madame la Présidente, Afghanistan belongs to its region, and as recent history has clearly demonstrated, the peace, security, and stability of Afghanistan as a center of the Heart of Asia region has a direct impact on the peace, security, and stability of the entire region, and vice versa. We want Afghanistan to serve its rightful role as a key land bridge to our very vital regional flow of people, goods, and investment. In this context, the Istanbul process that we have launched together with Turkish friends and all other participating and supporting states in the process of November 2011 for confidence building, promoting result-oriented cooperation is of vital importance. The follow-on ministerial meeting in Kabul, June 2012, and Almaty in April this year have taken the process to the level of maturity. It has now developed into a meaningful forum for discussion on specific confidence-building measures and enjoy considerable momentum. As the permanent co-chair of this process, the Afghan government is particularly grateful to the People's Republic of China for hosting the next ministerial meeting next summer. Madame la Présidente, in addition to improving cooperation and confidence on a whole range of this issue, all countries in our region and our allies and friends in the international community must continue to decisively confront the single biggest challenge that continues to endanger our collective peace and security and undermine the welfare of our people, namely the continuing menace of terrorism and extremism in their sanctuaries and support system in the region. We will not realize the full potential of our citizens and achieve true and lasting peace and security in Afghanistan or the wider region until we deal decisively against the brutality and evilness of the terrorists who try to harm us every day. Fortunately, we are more hopeful now than in the past that a gathering common approach against terrorism and extremism in our region. Madame la Présidente, this year General Assembly takes place in a time in which the UN has seen a number of conflicts continue when new ones have been taking shape. In Syria, we watch the ongoing immeasurable suffering of the great people of that country. Afghanistan calls for an immediate halt of the violence there, has taken the life of over hundreds of thousands people and forced over 2 million Syrians to become refugees, and at last left 6.8 million people in the urgent need of humanitarian assistance. We strongly support a political solution reached throughout a broad-based national dialogue that meets the aspirations of all Syrians. Moreover, the international community must provide necessary support to address the humanitarian need of those affected by the conflict, including the millions who have sought refuge in the neighboring countries. Speaking of long-standing conflict, none is more evident than the decade-long strife between Palestine and Israel. Following the years of deadlock and impasse, we see renewed effort for a peaceful settlement have emerged with the resumption of direct negotiation between the two sides. This is an important development which hope will result in durable peace enabled by the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. We also hope to witness the inclusion of the State of Palestine as a full member of the organization. Madame la Présidente, in conclusion, I stand before this Assembly. I feel more strongly than ever before that our shared vision of a world free from violence, conflict, and destitution will only be achieved if we put our differences aside as a one. If we adhere to the principle of understanding, solidarity, and cooperation, we will be able to secure our collective future as evidenced in historic success we have achieved in Afghanistan over the past 12 years. The UN has been a reliable partner in helping us come this far. As we prepare to embark upon the transformation decade, we expect the organization to continue its support through a renewed approach that reinforces Afghanistan leadership and ownership. Let me also assure you, Madame la Présidente, that we in Afghanistan work to preserve our gains and consolidate our young democracy in the crucial years ahead. We will remain an active member of the United Nations. Thank you very much.